Ahead of this weekend's event at Wembley Stadium, AEW reportedly has distributed over 50,000 tickets for AEW All In London. Bryan Danielson says he's the best effing wrestler in the world last night on AEW Dynamite. TNA wrestling star Rich Swann is entering rehab after a second disorderly intoxication arrest since 2022. Kazuchika Okada is still the AEW Continental Champion after a time limit draw against Claudio Castagnoli last night on AEW Dynamite. MJF bloodies Will Osprey ahead of their AEW American title match this weekend at Wembley. Timeless Toni Storm retains the AEW Women's World Championship against Sera. She'll be facing Mariah May this weekend. More names have been added to the AEW All In London Casino Gauntlet match. Speaking of All In, we're going to find out who is the final trio in the Trios title London Ladders match this weekend. This is going to happen on AEW Collision. AEW debut for Michael Oku in an untelevised pre-Dynamite Dark Match last night. Mora Ronaldo is returning to pro wrestling commentary in Scott D'Amour's new promotion. Chris Jericho defeats Dynamite Kid Tommy Billington. And an update on the Hulk Hogan Netflix biopic is now not happening. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, plenty of news stories to get into in the world of professional wrestling. Let's begin with a ticket update for AEW All In at Wembley Stadium this weekend. Of course, it was a bit of a contentious topic last year with what was the real number? Was it 80,000? Was it 72,000? Was it a world record? Wasn't it a world record? Many people were wondering, running the show at the same venue, same location 2 years in a row, what would the ticket sales be? Of course, we know the setup is going to be a little bit different this year as well. The stage is going to be bigger. Of course, there was a bit of a delay getting into the stadium because of the Taylor Swift concert. So what is going on when it comes to ticket sales for AEW All In this weekend? Well, ticket sales for the AEW All In 2024 pay-per-view events have picked up ahead of the show, which will take place on Sunday, August 25th at Wembley Stadium in London, UK. The 0-hour pre-show starts at noon Eastern in the United States, while the main card begins at 1 p.m. Eastern. AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland versus Bryan Danielson in the final countdown. Title versus career is set to be the main event. AEW Women's World Champion Timeless Toni Storm versus Mariah May. AEW International American Champion MJF versus Will Osprey. AEW TBS Champion Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker. And AEW TNT Champion Jack Perry versus Darby Allin in a coffin match. Our top match set for the show. Now, when it comes to how many tickets have been distributed, well, this comes courtesy of WrestleTix. Of course, they have a very strong reputation for getting these kind of things pretty accurate and pretty right. WrestleTix, which does a great job of tracking ticket sales for all pro wrestling events, noted the promotion had sold actually over 1,300, to be specific, 1,328 tickets over the last 3 days. Now, as of late Wednesday evening, over 50,000 tickets, to be specific, 50,022 tickets had been distributed, with 3,810 left for a total of 53,832. Now, of course, last year, AEW announced that 81,035 tickets were sold for the 2023 event at Wembley Stadium. The Brent Council, the local government entity for the area, confirmed to WrestleNomics that 72,265 people were in attendance, that being the turnstile count. As I mentioned, it was a quite contentious topic, but what are your thoughts when it comes to that number? At the moment, over 50,000 tickets being distributed. What do you think the final number is going to be? What do you think it's going to look like at Wembley Stadium? Let me know your thoughts about that in the comment section below. Now, of course, last night's Dynamite was the final Dynamite before this weekend's AEW All In event, AEW's biggest event of the year. And we got some final words from both Bryan Danielson and the AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland. Danielson and Strickland had their final showdown on the August 21st episode of AEW Dynamite. AEW commentator Nigel McGuinness moderated the showdown and brought out Swerve to give comments before Danielson arrived. Swerve ran down the list of competitors he's beaten on the way to becoming AEW World Champion and also retaining. Swerve stated that he felt disrespected by Bryan, who keeps doing interviews saying he's ready to retire. Swerve said that Bryan wouldn't take that, retiring Danielson from him. Swerve said that he's going to do something to Danielson to make sure he doesn't get the itch to get back in the ring, but if Bryan ever thought about wrestling again, he was going to be there. Swerve said if Bryan thought about sitting down with his wife and family to discuss a potential return, Swerve was going to be there. Now, Bryan came out at the mention of his family and wiped out Swerve with a psycho knee. Danielson grabbed the microphone and said that he is the best fucking wrestler in the world and everyone knows it. Danielson said Swerve would have to damn near kill him to beat him at AEW All In. He asked if he would defeat Swerve at All In, and the crowd chanted yes. Danielson, of course, will challenge Swerve for the AEW World title this weekend. If Bryan Danielson loses, he will retire. Now, a bit of an update when it comes to Rich Swann and some concerning news when it comes to the former TNA World Champion. Now, Rich Swann was arrested on June 8 in Florida and charged with disorderly public intoxication and causing a disturbance, a misdemeanor offense. Swann is entering a substance abuse rehab program. Post-wrestling was told by TNA on Wednesday. The company first learned of Swann's arrest when Post-Wrestling contacted them on Monday for comment. According to a public arrest report filed with Seminole County and obtained this week by Post-Wrestling, an individual who was later identified as Swann was initially described as a black male wearing a black shirt and blue shorts, attempting to forcibly enter an apartment door at approximately 9:50 p.m. Quote, I was getting into the shower when I heard a loud banging coming from the front door, the resident who called the police said in a sworn statement, according to the police report filed by Zane Hoskins of the Altamonte Springs Police Department. Quote, when my son started yelling for me to come to the door, I came out of the bathroom and heard the loud banging, so I went to my room and grabbed my handgun, the man who lives in the apartment told the police. I announced that I had a gun and for whoever was banging on my door to leave. When Swann allegedly started yelling, this is my house, the apartment resident opened the door and showed his gun. Swann was said to have reacted by backing up and leaving the property. The resident of the apartment then contacted authorities to report the incident. When police arrived at the scene, they were told by the resident that Swann had run away toward the nearby woods. Swann possibly mistook the apartment for his own home. The address of the apartment Swann was allegedly trying to kick in is a short walk from his own address. The resident told Hoskins, the police officer, that he didn't want to press charges against Swann, who damaged his front door. Police subsequently received another call, this time from a woman located in the same neighborhood. According to Hoskins' report, the woman told him in a sworn statement that she had gone to her son's apartment to pick up Amazon packages when she encountered Swann. Quote, I heard a male trying to talk to me. Swann started following me and I asked him to stop. Swann, according to the report, responded, what do you mean stop following you? Quote, so I started running as he followed me up to my door, but I managed to get inside and lock it before he could get in, the woman said in her statement to Hoskins. Officers located Swann near the area and took him into custody. They then escorted him back to the first apartment where he allegedly tried to kick in the door. Police used FaceTime to contact the resident of the apartment, who confirmed Swann was the person who had tried to force his way through the door. The police report described Swann as incoherent and appearing to be intoxicated. Hoskins reported that he smelled alcohol on Swann's breath and that his eyes were glassy and his speech was slurred. Hoskins wrote in the report, quote, I asked if Richard had any drinks containing alcohol. He stated that he did. When we asked how many, he stated a lot. I asked Richard when he did start to drink and he told me around 1900 hours, about 3 hours earlier. Swann's actions while intoxicated caused multiple disturbances and his behavior caused several residents concern for their safety, Hoskins wrote, explaining his reason for charging Swann. The arrest report states that Swann was then driven to the John E. Polk Correction Facility in Sanford, Florida, about 10 miles from where he was arrested. Swann was released the following day on a $250 bond, according to court records. He submitted an affidavit of indigency, which is an application a defendant can use to claim that they cannot afford an attorney and should be appointed a public defender. Swann's application was denied, and as a result, he was charged $50. On the application, Swann appears to have indicated that he's homeless, although other records indicate that he does have a home address. Swann is being defended by a private attorney from the Joshi law firm in Orlando, according to court records. A pre-trial conference for Swann's case was scheduled for Wednesday in Sanford. Of course, notably, Swann was charged with the same offense in September 2022, an incident not previously reported in media when he was arrested for allegedly causing a disturbance while intoxicated at the apartment complex where he lives. The court ordered him to pay $351.49 related to that charge. TNA first became aware of these incidents when Post Wrestling reached out for comment on this report. The company commented on Wednesday saying it's taking immediate steps to address the situation internally and that Swann has voluntarily entered a substance abuse rehabilitation program. Quote, TNA Wrestling takes any and all charges against its performers seriously, TNA told Post Wrestling in a statement. Rich Swann is responsible for his own personal actions. He has informed TNA Wrestling that he is voluntarily entering into a substance abuse rehabilitation program. TNA Wrestling has suspended Rich pending the completion of its investigation into the instance. Swann is also pulling out a future independent booking. So if we get any more details on this, of course, we'll let you know in an upcoming video. Now, switching back over to AEW Dynamite last night, Kazuchika Okada is still the AEW Continental Champion. Kazuchika Okada took his AEW Continental Championship across the Atlantic on Wednesday's Wales-based edition of Dynamite. Okada was given a tough fight by his challenger, Claudio Castagnoli, and only retained his title after a time limit draw and some help from the Elite. For every move Okada made, Castagnoli had an answer. The two men delivered a hard-hitting 20-minute match that saw several ambitious top rope moves, a signature swing from Castagnoli, and disrespect in the form of a middle finger from Okada. However, just as Castagnoli went for a pin cover on Okada following a pop-up uppercut, the bell rang and the match was ruled as a time limit draw. The Welsh audience groaned in disappointment as the Young Bucks appeared to flex their executive arm. Matthew and Nicholas Jackson shallowly applauded Castagnoli for his performance, but ultimately refused to extend the match by 5 minutes, much to the chagrin of the challenger and the Welsh crowd. Instead, the EVPs and Jack Perry began to prepare for their match against FTR and Darby Allin. In the opening moments of the match, Okada and Castagnoli were seen brawling up the entrance ramp. Okada did not return to aid the Elite in any way. So we'll have to wait and see again if we get a rematch at any point in the future. MJF and Will Osprey had a face-to-face on the August 21st episode of AEW Dynamite. Osprey was greeted handsomely, as you would expect, by the crowd in the UK, while MJF received an unfavourable response. Osprey began by saying that AEW All In was about cleaning up a mess. MJF said he was back to clean up the mess left by Will Osprey because when MJF left, so did the fans. MJF said he didn't have to be a flip merchant to get the job done. All he had to do was a kangaroo kick. He said that pisses him off, and he came back early from injury because he was begged to by top brass in AEW and by Warner Brothers Discovery. Osprey fired back, saying that everyone heard about AEW, a promotion that catered to people who liked pro wrestling. Then they turned on the channel and started laughing when MJF was champion. He said the joke went on too long and it steered too far away from the foundation. He claimed no one talked about the main event of AEW All In last year, how it was a great wrestling match. He said that people were talking about how it was two friends jerking each other off. He said Tony Khan came to him and said, please put on a good wrestling match because I can't rely on my world champion to do it. Osprey noted that AEW was meant to be an alternative that focused on wrestling, and MJF was providing entertainment. Osprey said it's about restoring the feeling, and that he is the feeling. MJF responded by saying it was his fault for listening to Tony Khan, who said the company would be safe in Osprey's hands. MJF asked, who the hell are you? And said that everyone knows MJF. He continued by saying that everyone, from pundits to peers, agreed that he was the best wrestler in the world. MJF said fans know nothing about wrestling, and he knows that because they like Osprey matches. MJF said, you can be the feeling all you want. Friedman is the facts. MJF said that the fact is, when they talk about his generation of wrestling, he'll be the ace and Osprey will be second place. He closed by saying that Osprey only has one move that can beat him, and he's afraid to pull the trigger on the Tiger Driver. Osprey said that the history books can be rewritten, but how people feel can't. He said MJF never inspired anyone to wrestle, while he's had guys like Nick Wayne said that he was inspired by Osprey. Osprey said that the people who called MJF generational, or the people who say Osprey changed the game. Osprey said that ask anyone in the world who the best wrestler wrestler is, and they will say him. Osprey stated that MJF let everyone down and that they used to love him. Quote, "They loved me until you showed up and ruined it," said MJF. MJF put over Osprey, saying he's a great wrestler, a great husband, and a great father. MJF said that before the show he spoke to Osprey's wife and stepson, and he has the feeling the next kid she has won't be Osprey's either. Osprey then asked how much he would be fined if he hit MJF. He was informed by Tony Khan via Tony Schiavone that it would cost $127,000. Osprey said it was worth it and struck MJF. As security broke it up, MJF knocked Osprey with the Dynamite diamond ring and continued to punch him, busting him open. MJF then hit a brainbuster and got a visual pin. MJF was going for the Tiger Driver, but security came back and broke it up. Of course, this match for the AEW American Championship, International Championship, is set to take place this weekend at All In. Now, Timeless Toni Storm, she retained her AEW Women's World Championship. AEW Women's Champion Timeless Toni Storm retained her title over Sera on Wednesday's episode of AEW Dynamite. The match was set up last Friday on AEW Rampage when Sera, on her birthday, demanded a title shot in the UK. The women were more evenly matched to start the bout, then got into a screaming match with Storm in the middle of the ring and Sera on the apron. Harley Cameron got involved when Storm was on the outside of the ring and threw her face first into the ring barricade, and Sera hit her with a cannonball to follow up. During a picture-in-picture break, Sera dominated the champion, attempting to choke her out over the barricade, then ran her into it once again. When both women were back in the ring, Cameron got up on the apron to distract the referee. She was met with a lip lock from Storm, shocking Cameron, and Sera accidentally hit her friend with an elbow, knocking her off the apron. Storm then kissed Sera before hitting a Storm Zero for the victory. But after the match, Storm was attacked by former protege, the Glamour Mariah May, who she will be facing this weekend at Wembley Stadium. May appeared from the crowd and hit her former mentor with the shoe from behind. She cuddled Storm for a moment in the ring before leaving her lying ahead of their upcoming title bout. Now, more names have been added and announced for the Casino Gauntlet match taking place at AEW All In this weekend. New entrants were revealed in a pair of backstage interview segments with Renee Paquette, where she first checked in with the conglomeration. During the interview, further members of the faction were confirmed for the Casino Gauntlet, in addition to Orange Cassidy, who has already been announced, as well as Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Mark Briscoe were revealed to also be in the match. Their fellow conglomeration member Tomohiro Ishii is in action on the All In 0-hour pre-show, teaming with Willow Nightingale against Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway. In a separate backstage segment, it was also revealed that Hangman Adam Page was also in the match, in addition to Evil Uno. Page then struck Uno with a steel chair. There are also expected to be several unannounced entrants in the Casino Gauntlet match too, so we'll have to wait and see indeed who's going to be participating in that one. Now, a qualifying match has been announced for this weekend's upcoming AEW Collision. Now, on the August 21st edition of AEW Dynamite, it was announced that Top Flight, Dante Martin and Darius Martin and Leo Rush will face the trio of Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta and Pac on the August 24th edition of Collision. The winning team will earn their way into the London Ladders match for the AEW Trios Championship at All In. As of this recording, the match features the Patriarchy, the House of Black, and the Bang Bang Gang, of course, set to compete for the Trios title. Of course, once we get confirmation and that match airs, we'll let you know who indeed is going to be joining the fold at Wembley Stadium. Now, there was a dark match prior to Dynamite last night featuring a top indie talent. Now, the August 21st, 2024 episode of AEW Dynamite was a landmark moment in AEW history, as it was the first time an episode of the company's flagship show took place outside of North America. Fans in Cardiff, Wales were the lucky ones to see all the action unfold live. Of course, it aired on tape delay on TBS later on in the evening. But what fans didn't see on TBS is the dark match that took place before the taping, which featured the AEW debut of English star Michael Oku. Oku is the current Rev Pro Undisputed British Heavyweight Champion and has been linked to a full-time move to AEW in recent weeks, especially given his recent match with MJF on August 11th and his long-standing friendship with former rival and current AEW star Will Osprey. The 31-year-old arrived accompanied by Amira, who has been linked to AEW as Oku's manager, and he went one-on-one with Serpentico. After the masked man missed a diving foot stomp, Oku rolled through and locked in a single-leg Boston Crab to force Serpentico to submit, much to the delight of fans in attendance. So that match took place prior to Dynamite last night. Now, Mora Ronaldo is back calling professional wrestling. Now, from 2015 to 2020, Mora Ronaldo was a familiar voice to WWE fans, providing lively commentary on SmackDown and NXT. He would then leave WWE in August of 2020, bringing to an end of his second run in the company, later revealing the reasons he chose to walk away. Ronaldo was absent from WWE for a part of 2017 following issues behind the scenes, returning to the company as part of the NXT commentary team in June of that year. During a recent episode of Insight with Chris Van Vliet, former TNA Wrestling president Scott D'Amore revealed Ronaldo's new role in pro wrestling, saying, quote, "This is 2 nights of wrestling that I want to be a part of. To me, in wrestling and in sport, one of the most important things is the voice that's leading you down the journey. The voice that is giving you this background and describing the action in ring, explaining it, providing that emotion as your tour guide on this journey is so important. You need to have a great voice, and I think we have one of the very best, indisputably the best combat sports cross-genre announcer, because Mora Ronaldo has agreed to be the voice of Maple Leaf Pro." D'Amore's praise for the former WWE commentator wouldn't stop there, going on to say, quote, "I mean, he's the man. Moro has got a passion for wrestling. I met Moro probably close to 25 years ago in Stampede Wrestling. He was coming in as a heel to feud with Sabu, and he was the 21-year-old kid who was doing the play-by-play with Bad News Brown, and we connected then over the years. He loves wrestling. He's the best. You turned on Showtime for any big boxing fight, or you turned on to watch a lot of the big MMA fights with pride and everything. Moro is that voice." So it looks like D'Amore has locked in Mora Ronaldo to be the official voice of Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. So, of course, that's the new promotion that Scott D'Amore is going to be running. Chris Jericho defeated Dynamite Kid Tommy Billington last night on AEW Dynamite. Now, of course, Billington has already appeared on Collision, but last night in Cardiff, Wales, he made his Dynamite debut. Billington, of course, is the nephew of former WWE Tag Team Champion, the Dynamite Kid. After a competitive match, Tommy Billington would ultimately fall to the veteran Chris Jericho. Jericho did get help from his backup duo of Big Bill and Brian Keith at ringside for the match. After the match, Hook made an appearance in advance of his match against Jericho, all in London at Wembley Stadium this weekend. The FTW Championship, of course, will be on the line, and of course, if Hook does not win, then Jericho will be Hook-less during the entirety of his title reign, because Hook will not be able to challenge for the title as long as Jericho is the FTW champion. And finally, a bit of an update when it comes to this Hulk Hogan Netflix biopic that had, well, at one point Todd Phillips and Chris Hemsworth attached to it. It's no longer happening. Now, an update on the Hulk Hogan Netflix biopic has emerged from director Todd Phillips during his promotional tour for the movie Joker: Folie à Deux. Phillips was slated to direct the movie, which would have starred Chris Hemsworth as the 2-time WWE Hall of Famer. Speaking to Variety, Phillips revealed that the movie is no longer going ahead under his directorship, saying, quote, "I love what we were trying to do, but that's not going to come together for me." Variety has also recently reported that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's Artist Equity have acquired a screenplay based on Ryan Holiday's book Conspiracy, Peter Thiel, Hulk Hogan, Gawker, and the Anatomy of Intrigue. The production company has the project under the title Killing Gawker in active development, with Gus Van Sant set to direct. At the time of recording, there is no start date for production or cast announcements, although Variety notes that Ben Affleck has been rumoured for the lead role. Gawker Media was forced to shut down after Hogan won a $140 million judgment against the company, its founder Nick Denton, and one of its editors in March of 2016. So it looks like that Todd Phillips movie is now no longer happening. But there you go, guys. Latest pro wrestling news for you. Be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.